I want to welcome everybody today, and I want to thank you today for being here at this press conference. We just had a wonderful hearing, very compelling testimony, and a wonderful hearing about three bills actually, and a resolution that pertains to suspension of driver's licenses. Pennsylvania is one of several states that suspend a person's driver's license after a conviction for a non-vehicle related offense, such as a drug possession or a distribution conviction, which have nothing to do with driving, have nothing to do with public safety. There's little evidence it has served as a deterrent. However, it has left tens of thousands of former convicts struggling to find work and do other basic things like traveling to the grocery store, taking care of their families, transporting their children to school, or simply driving to their job to make an honest living. And they're trying to mend their lives and put them back on the right track, and not having that driver's license is a severe impediment. Many have been unable to scrape together the hundreds of dollars in license reinstatement fees once their suspensions are up. And some have resorted to driving without a license, putting themselves at risk of extended suspensions and hundreds of dollars in new fines and even more jail time. Drug-related suspensions leave a permanent mark on an offender's driving record, and employers frequently check those records when making hiring decisions. These burdens fall most heavily on low-wage workers, making it tremendously difficult for them to live productive law-abiding lives, and they want to live productive law-abiding lives. They're trying to reintegrate back into society. These license suspensions create needless harm. Instead of helping people find jobs and stay out of the criminal justice system, these laws steer people right back into it. On top of that, individuals often chance driving on their suspended license to drive to and from work, and are just one broken taillight or lane change violation away from another conviction. If they're found guilty for driving on a suspended license, that means adding new convictions to their records and extra court fees to pay off. License suspensions should be reserved for unsafe drivers. And my bills don't apply to unsafe drivers. It only applies to non-vehicle related driving offenses and drug convictions that don't result in any public safety hazard on the roads. Many people also incorrectly assume that Pennsylvania residents are able to obtain a work-related or bread-and-butter driver's license, as they call it, that at least allows a person to drive to and from work. In Pennsylvania, the work license is called an occupational limited license, and the limited license generally allows a person to drive to and from work, school, and medical appointments. The problem is that few people are eligible to receive such a license. For example, a person suffering from a suspension for a drug charge like possession with intent to deliver or possession of marijuana is not eligible for these licenses. I've introduced House Bill 163 and House Bill 42, which would remove the license suspensions for drug convictions and non-vehicle related crimes. In our state, we've seen an alarming number of individuals who are at a disadvantage after paying their debt to society by not being able to drive and re-enter the workforce. They get out of jail thinking they've paid their debt to society, yet they're still being penalized from re-entering the workforce by a driver's license that's been suspended. Although it is currently prohibited for a state to not have a license suspension associated with these crimes, the federal government prohibits that. A state can pass a resolution notifying the federal government of its intention to do away with this overtly harsh penalty. And we have a resolution in the works right now to do that. And if we do that, that'll be the final step in removing this impediment, along with the bills that we've introduced. Today, we can remove a barrier to successful reentry, to employment, and further treatment and recovery. Right? I'm here at the TIP, and people behind me are learning a trade. They're finding new purpose in their life, finding something that they love to do that will pay them a good salary. Yet many of them might not be able to find that job because they won't be able to reach their place of employment once they get out of here. These bills would help them, put them back to work, get them off the welfare rolls, get them off public assistance, get them back to work where they want to be. You know, we often hear in America today that Americans don't want to work, and we have to have labor come in from outside because Americans don't want to work. Well, let me tell you, right here in Pennsylvania, we have thousands of people who want to work but can't get there. They're not allowed to get there because the government is the biggest impediment. The government removes their driver's license so they can't get to work. We want to put those people back to work, put Americans back to work. My bills will do that. So we have some guest speakers here today behind me, all of whom have been impacted by this law. Their stories differ, but nonetheless, they've all seen the negative impacts on our society that this law holds. I want to introduce our next speaker, Khalif Ali, who is the Director of Public Policy and Advocacy at the Pittsburgh Foundation. He's going to tell you a little bit more about the impacts of this law. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Khalif, who's done remarkable advocacy work in our state. Khalif, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Representative Saccone. Let me begin by thanking Chairman Marsico, Chairman Taylor, the members of the Pennsylvania House Transportation and Judiciary Committees, and all other members and staff of the Pennsylvania General Assembly who came, and for your consideration. The Pittsburgh Foundation, which is in part focused on criminal justice reform and removing barriers to economic opportunities through 100% Pittsburgh organizing principle, support measures that eliminate driver's license suspensions for non-driving offenses. We consider these bills to contribute not only to criminal justice reform, but to workforce development. This effort puts people back to work and allows them an opportunity to support themselves and their family. These bills help to remove the revolving door of recidivism associated with individuals who are legitimately trying to make the transition out of the criminal justice system. These bills also remove a barrier for those who have served their time, whether in prison or county jail, on probation or parole, and are making an effort to return to employment. We are truly encouraged by the initial bipartisan, multi-sector support that these bills are receiving. This shows a recognition for an issue that in many cases has created an insurmountable barrier for those who are seeking employment. So we want to thank Representative Saccone for bringing these bills to these committees. And I want to introduce you to my good friend. She's a real one-woman show, Joyce Douglas.
Thank you, Khalif. My name is Joyce Douglas, and my interest in Representative Saccone's bills are due to my former employment, which was a state parole agent. I was a parole agent for 25 years before retiring in 2015. And during that time, I believed everybody deserved a chance for successful reentry. But unfortunately, everyone doesn't have the same chance because those who have suspended licenses oftentimes were left in the dust. My job often was very burdensome in some respects, as well as those that I supervised, because I felt that we set them up to fail. We insisted that they do many things. They find a job, they support their families, they go to meetings and mandatory appointments, they pay child support, restitution, costs, fines, and yet we took away the means for them to do that, which is a driver's license. And many people, because of that, failed. Many said that public transportation should be enough for these folks to be able to get around, but that isn't so. There's diminishing bus routes, and many places have no transportation whatsoever. And in the metropolitan areas, the jobs have been moving steadily in the last 20 years outside of the business districts. And now 45% of the jobs are 10 to 35 miles from there, and people have no chance to have access to those jobs. It has been stated by the American Association of Motor Vehicles that there is no evidence whatsoever that indicates that suspending a person's driver's license for non-conformance related suspension, social non-conformance, has any effect at all in getting them to comply with the original reason that the license was suspended. And it just begs to ask the question why we continue that practice. Any punishment that is excessive is cruel, and adding another layer of sanction over and above the criminal penalty is excessive. Many individuals find themselves with years of suspensions, and this practice is akin to putting them in a geographic prison. Thankfully, Representative Saccone has supported this and he has introduced the bills, and we are just asking that people support them. Thank you.
So we're going to have Derek come up and share some of his testimony with you guys.
Hi, my name is Derek Dolanch. Currently under a 22-year driving suspension for unrelated driving incidents. Basically, it affects my everyday general life, puts strains on my relationship with my significant other. I have a 2.5-year-old son. I'm unable to get him to and from daycare, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, grocery stores, any day-to-day, things that everybody does in their everyday life. And you get up in the morning and you start your car up and warm it up and go to the gas station to get your coffee. These things are not available to me, and it's a constant struggle. I'm fortunate enough that I have family and friends that don't want to see me fail. They want me to succeed. And at times I feel like I'm a burden on them, and I just want to be able to provide for my family one day, maybe have that opportunity to earn that privilege to drive again, whatever the case may be. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to hear from Nathan Huffman.
Hello, my name is Nathan Huffman. I really don't have anything much new to say. My story is much like the stories you'll hear behind me. I've been in recovery from heroin addiction for the past 9 years, but my license will continues to be suspended and will be continued to be suspended if changes aren't made. I'm not just someone who received a license suspension and is trying to just get their license back like the rest of us. We have families that we want to support. We have kids that we want to support. We have jobs that we want to go to. We're not asking for a handout. What we are asking for is a chance, just a chance. That's all we're asking for, an opportunity to get our licenses back and to do the things that most people take for granted. I know it would certainly help me to achieve my ultimate goal of just being able to lead a regular life and have a family. And that's really all we're asking for today. So thank you for your attendance and for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, I want to end up with this. Look, some people might be listening to this on radio, or somebody might see this on TV or see it in newsprint and say, well, you're not tough on crime. You're soft on crime, Rick. I'm one of the law and order legislators. I'm tough on crime, as tough as it can be. This is not about the crime. These people have paid for their crime. They've paid their debt. In many cases, they've already paid their fines and fees and everything, yet they're still being penalized. And they may be for years to come, when they're trying to get off the public assistance, when they're trying to get off being supported by the rest of us. They're trying to do the right thing. Their government is imposing a penalty on them that's unrelated even to their initial offense. That's the travesty of this law. It's a flaw in the law. Make no mistake about it. And it's counterproductive to bringing back good people back into society and incorporating them and reintegrating them. So that's what this is about. Don't be misled, and don't think it's about being soft on crime. It has nothing to do with that. These people have already paid for that crime. And they really have an earnest desire to get back into society. And I think we have an obligation in government to remove any obstacles and allow them to reincorporate so that they can pay taxes, so they can support their families, so that they can go to school, so that they can go to work. And as one of our testifiers said today in the hearing, I think it's one of them that's here with us now, if they had their driver's license back, they wouldn't just get a job tomorrow. They'd have a job today. They would be working today. We have jobs waiting for these people that they cannot get because they don't have a driver's license. So we want to move these bills through the legislature as quickly as possible. We want to get these people back to work. I thank you all for coming out today. God bless you, and please support these people and support that legislation. Thank you.